here again. I hope you are very well. Firstly, thank you for tuning in to watch this video. So question number one that we always ask ourselves when we get involved with any commercial property is, how do I get the downstairs for free? Question number two is always, how do I add value? So I showed you in that first video how to get the downstairs for free. I also showed you some of the ways in which you can add value. So classic, huge way to add value, which is just tremendously exciting, is to buy an empty commercial property at the same time that you agree a lease with the incoming tenant. Now, I went through in that video, video number one, how the lease impacts the value of the property, and how by simply signing a piece of paper, just like this, signature on it, it's going to triple, quadruple, or even times by a factor of 5 or 6 the value of the empty property that you're buying. So that is a huge way in which you can add value. Okay, so that was video one. I don't know if you were as excited as I was about video one, but brilliant. Video number two was all about the differences between owning commercial property and residential property. So FRI leases, full, repairing and insuring leases. Thing of absolute beauty. And by the way, I'm not talking about you have to necessarily get Costa Coffee or Starbucks or Pizza Hut or, these national mega brands. If you do, I think you should be looking at that as a real bonus, real icing on the cake. Just look primarily for small local businesses, maybe accountants, maybe lawyers, maybe a kid's clothing shop. Something that's going to be there for a long time. Maybe something that's already been there for a long time, like a local plumbing business. As long as they've got established, if they've got good books, then they're going to represent a good covenant, and you're going to get great return on your money. Because the thing that I want you to remember above everything else when we're talking about FRI leases is you, the landlord, are not responsible for anything. You put that tenant in there, they are responsible for all of the repairs and maintenance. The boiler breaks, they are responsible for replacing the boiler. The roof blows off in a gale, they've got to put the roof back on again. An FRI lease. Tenants and tenants' rights, very different. Commercial versus residential, very different. With residential tenants under an AST and a short hold tenancy, they've got right after right. And if you go and talk to enough landlords, you'll very quickly find that virtually every experienced landlord has got some sort of horror story that they can tell you about their tenants. You can't get that with commercial property because they don't have the same rights. The eviction procedures are fast, simple, and cheap. So if you want to go through the top reasons, the top differences between residential property investing and commercial property investing, go back and watch video number 2 again, because there's some powerful stuff in there that's really going to help you motor on with your commercial property journey. Video number 3 was mainly about our 3-step system. I called it the stairway to commercial heaven. It was about finding the properties, then filling the properties, and then funding the properties. So find potentially an empty one. Fill it with a new tenant, so sign a new lease before you buy it, and now fund it. Completely different from buy-to-let, because with a buy-to-let or an HMO, you're going to buy it, probably do some sort of refurb on it at your expense, get it funded, and then go and look for some tenants. With commercial property, completely the other way around. You've still got to find it first, of course. You can't buy a property that you haven't found, but you fill it first. You can't possibly put a tenant into a property, a buy-to-let property that you haven't bought yet, can you? It's not possible. But a commercial property, you can get that piece of paper, you can get the lease signed before the tenant moves in. And that is what you're going to use for your bank lending. And the rest of video number 3 was really about the success stories and the massive excitement you can see in the faces of the people that have spent a couple of days with us. They've learned how to build commercial portfolios, and then they've gone and done it. And some of these people have only spent those 2 days with us very, very recently, the last few weeks. So this isn't a journey that's going to take you the next 10 years or 5 years. It's going to take you weeks or months to get your first property. It's that fast. Okay, so the extra bits that I want to add on. And there's very few commercial investors. So people think by association, oh, it must be really difficult. No, the opposite. It's really easy. So why do most people not invest in commercial property? It's as simple as this. They don't know how. They've never considered it. In 1996, buy-to-let went mainstream. What happened was the Northern Rock, then, doesn't exist now, but then a building society coined the phrase buy-to-let mortgages. And suddenly everybody was talking about buy-to-let. That same thing has never happened with commercial property. So you can buy commercial property with the lease. You can buy commercial property into your pension fund. So why don't most people buy commercial property? Because they haven't got the first clue how to do it. So the fantastic news is that in just 2 days with us, you can learn all the ins and outs and get fully prepared to go back out into the world and bag your first commercial deals. So that's number one. Why do most people not do it? Because they don't know how. It's never even occurred to them, probably. The second thing that I get quite a lot is, oh, commercial property, that's very risky, isn't it? You know, all those high street brands closing down. Well, no, not if you know what you're doing. So would you want to go and buy a load of department stores at the moment? No, you absolutely wouldn't. Would you want to invest your money into long-term brand relationships with brands like Wetherspoons or Costa Coffee or Pizza Hut or Domino's or Papa John's? Or a chemist. I can give you a whole list of businesses that are extremely unlikely to go bankrupt. And here is the one single reason why they're extremely unlikely to go bankrupt. They are Amazon proof. If you look at all the businesses that are getting taken out on the high street, all of them, all the businesses that are getting taken out on the high street are getting taken out by Amazon. Could you take a commercial property and rent it out to a dentist or a doctor? 100%. Is a dentist or a doctor ever likely to go bankrupt? No. So would I recommend that you just fire off and just go in with no support whatsoever, just go start randomly buying empty commercial buildings? Of course not. But if you've got the right support, if you've got the right education, it's not hard to find empty commercial properties, and it's not hard to find businesses that want to move into them. So the last commercial property that we let, it was right here in Doncaster, and they moved in on the 1st of August this year. So that's pretty recent. That's the last one that we let out. We don't have any vacant commercial properties, none. And it took us a couple of months to let it to the new tenant. Why did we have to find a new tenant? Well, we had to find a new tenant because the previous tenant was us. We had the property on the market for a couple of months before we agreed a let with a new tenant. So who are this new tenant? They're a housing charity. They're a division of the NHS. Are they going to go bust? No chance. They're 100% funded by government money. They're called Bridge It. They exist to move people that have been long-term institutionalised back into the community. So this could be children that have spent their entire lives growing up in care homes or something like that, and they get to the verge of adulthood and they need to be put into relatively secure, not secure, but relatively supervised accommodation, I think is the best way to put it, before they go fully on their own. Or it could be perhaps people that have been hospitalised longer term. It could be people that have had various perhaps mental issues of one sort or another, and they've been in some sort of institution. So that's the sort of work that they do, which is incredibly valuable, and I'm really pleased that they do it. But as a tenant, is that a good risk? I would say 100% yes, it's a good risk. The third reason that people often tell me, I can't do that because, is funding. They say, oh, well, in order to do commercial property, you need commercial finance. That's true, you do. And they say, well, I can't get commercial finance because I don't have any experience. Well, if that was true, no one would ever do commercial property because no one could ever get commercial finance. It's somebody's first time, always. It's impossible that in order to do something, you have to have experience, because otherwise nobody could ever do it. So all the reasons that you've got in your head as to why you can't do this, I would like the opportunity to work with you, and you never have to spend the time and energy that you would if it's a buy-to-let property. It's hands-free. You can do it 100% hands-free. As with a residential property, you have to pay a letting agent to manage it on your behalf, and that the fee for the letting agent comes out of your money. Commercial property, if you want to use an agent so it's completely hands-free, guess who pays for that if you write the lease correctly? They do. The tenant pays the letting fee. If you want to do a little bit of work, you can be the agent. You can pick up an extra 10, 15, 20% of the rent for managing the commercial property, but it's virtually nothing to do. Send out 3 or 4 bills a year, maybe take the odd picture and tell them to clean the gutters or whatever, because it's all at their expense. Is instantly make 10% returns and quickly learn how to make far more with our simple 3-step system. But I want to give you a feel for the system that we teach to make sure people have got everything they need to become proficient, professional, competent commercial property investors. We call it the Alchemy System. Why alchemy? Well, alchemy is the ancient art of turning base metals into gold. So alchemy is the process that we go through to turn base, empty, almost valueless commercial properties into golden opportunities. A stands for acquire. Acquire properties simply and easily and quickly. The L stands for leases. How to write the lease so that the tenant's paying for everything and you're not paying for anything. The C stands for control. How do you control the deal before you do it? Because you want to hold the property so that you can get tenants without having to buy the property, so you can try and get tenants. The H stands for hold. In what vehicle should you hold it? Should it be a limited company? Should it be an LLP? Should it be a pension? Should it be some SPV? So unless you're completely clear about your exit, you're going to get the wrong hold vehicle. E stands for equity. How far should you gear up? What kind of loans should you put in place? M stands for your mastermind. Who are the people that you're going to need on your team? And they're different to buy to let. You're going to need a commercial solicitor, not a regular residential conveyancer. They won't be able to help you. You're going to need a commercial surveyor, not a regular residential surveyor. You find all the deals in a different place. You structure the deals in a different way. So you need a different power team. That's your mastermind. And finally, the Y, create your legacy. So that is the Alchemy System. We're about to wrap up. As you can see, I'm quite excited about working with you on this because it really, really, really does something for me when I see people go from no property to good property income very, very quickly. When I see people go to good